All right, welcome to the Lions Share. I'm your host, Mitch Lyons. This is where we talk family, faith, football, finance, and fun. This episode is always brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. And today's guest is an old throwback, going back to the days in the NFL when I was playing as well. John Jurko Jurkovic, who was a proud veteran of the Packers, the Jaguars, and the Browns. We've butted heads a few times, our teams did, and over the years. And he's also we're proud to have him be an endorser for us in the Chicago market on ESPN 1000, where he is host of the Carmen and Jurko show, which is on 12 to 3 Central. We'd love to welcome Jurko to the show. Thanks for being here, Jurko.
No problem, Mitch. Thanks for having me. And we certainly do appreciate the partnership that we have as we move forward in the wonderful 2025.
Yeah, no, we're excited for that too. Chicago's been a great market for Mitch Lyons Wealth, and we're glad to jump on the Carmen and Jurko train. Obviously, a long-running, popular show in Chicago, so we're glad to have you partner with us on that, and we're excited for the next year. So thanks again for that. Well, let's talk a little football, man. We go back. We have some common denominators, but let's go back even before the NFL. And as I was reading your history, being an Eastern Illinois grad. Maybe not the program that a lot of people think of in terms of power football, but you start looking at the list of graduates and guys that played there. It's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah.
Many people might think of Tony Romo, but you got Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Sean Payton, which people obviously know for his coaching prowess, but he actually was a QB there as well. And then obviously you went to Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois. What took you? I mean, I know you're a Chicago kid. You grew up in Chicago. Tell us that little path, how you ended up at Eastern
All
Illinois.
right. Well, first, we always consider ourselves the cradle of coaches because we had a ton of coaches. Brad Childress was an EIU guy. Mike Shanahan's an EIU guy. And of course, Sean Payton. But there were a ton of assistants like Mike Heimerdinger with Tennessee Titans and Jeff Fisher. Cal Dickerson was in the NFL. One of the great defensive line coaches that was in the league, John Tierlink,
Hmm.
was also in the NFL. So we had a slew of guys that ended up coaching in the NFL, which was always wonderful. Having coaches out there when you had players at Eastern Illinois, because you
Yeah.
always got what I'd like to think was that little extra kind of consideration by them.
Sure.
We had a kid named McElroy, Ray McElroy, that got drafted by Denver Broncos. He played for the Bears a little bit also. So he played about 6, 7 years. Brad Fichtel. We've had some linebackers stick around in the NFL. So, Romo played for a long time and now he's on television. So he's always a tremendous ambassador for Eastern Illinois. Jimmy Garoppolo's still hanging on. He's 32. I think
Yeah.
if he gets a legitimate chance, he's got a way of maybe getting things done for himself once again. But
Yeah.
besides being the cradle of coaches, we're also the cradle of quarterbacks. At one point, I think we had more starting quarterbacks in the NFL with Romo and Jimmy Garoppolo than USC did. So that's just kind of the weird thing. Now, how did I get
Yeah.
there?
How'd you get there?
I was coming out of college. I mean, high school, I was about 230 pounds as an offensive lineman, defensive lineman. So even back in 1984, 235 pounds wasn't a big number. They were looking for guys that were at least,
Yeah, I was
275,
a tight end coming out of
275.
high school weighing that.
Yeah,
And as my
exactly.
coaches
Now
at
they are.
MSU told me, I was only a banana step away from moving interior.
Yeah, oh yeah, especially they
I
love
was a
the
big
talent.
threat.
They love the talent of the tight end and the feet of the tight end,
Oh
and
yeah.
move him into tackle. Then all of a sudden, he's a burner at tackle. So you got lucky.
Yeah, well,
It stayed out
I'll
there.
tell you. I'll tell you. Number one, we had four tight ends come in on my recruiting class, right? Who recruits four tight ends? And actually, the funny thing is, three of them ended up being tight ends our whole time. One of them had about five catches in the first scrimmage. He was the biggest guy, and they didn't want him to get too excited. So Jeff Graham got moved down to tackle like the next practice, so he didn't get his hopes up. But
Yeah.
yeah, but to going back to that, when I was coming out of college, I remember a scout for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I saw him in the airport coming back from the combine. He said, "Hey, you ever thought about playing guard?" It's impressive that he thought maybe I had but as a tight end, I was like, ugh, because I knew I just ran a slow 40.
Would you run?
Oh man, I was like a five flat guy, right? Five
Yeah, I was
on a good
5'2".
day.
I was 5'2", 5 in the 40,
Yeah,
but I ran my 20 shuttle in 4.44.
yeah. I was not a I was some guys are combine kids. I wasn't a
Yeah,
combine kid. Other
yeah.
than
Well,
what was the one
all
the
my other
Wonderlic. I had a good
measurables.
Wonderlic score.
Yeah, well, as did I. I was in the low 30s,
Yeah,
30,
same. So
31, 32.
yeah.
I took it so many times. It was like, guys, it's not going to change. You know, You can take it 10 times with the variance of what, maybe what, +1 or +2 and -1,
Yeah,
-2. It's going to stay in the same area,
right.
but we can't
So,
get
so
any.
anyway, well, I
Yeah.
digress. So go back to your getting to Eastern Illinois. So you end
Yeah,
up,
so I was a little light in the ass for the college guys, and got taken off of boards because I didn't have the weight.
sure,
Nobody could project that. Hey, by the time I became a freshman, and I was only 17 in my senior year, 1985.
yeah,
So as I went through my senior year, I got to be 18 the next year. Over that summer or that year, my senior year, I go from 230 pounds when I'm playing to 260 pounds by the time I get to my freshman year of college. Now I'm a little bit more built.
yeah,
I'm maturing. I'm physically fit. But Eastern Illinois was the only school that recruited me. Eastern Illinois was the only school that gave me a scholarship. I wanted to go to Purdue and play, and my daughter's there now. She's a junior. But they looked at it, and I was trying to get there any way possible. I wrestled, so I tried to get a wrestling scholarship there to play football. None of it worked out. And then old coach of mine, Bill Cameron, said, "Listen, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush.
yeah,
Your parents can't afford to send you to college. You need to take the scholarship." And they play good football down there. And the guy that we knew that was in the NFL that was from Eastern Illinois was a kid out of Momence, Illinois. Ted Peterson played for the Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers. He was an offensive guard.
okay,
So he was out of Momence, Illinois. He went to Eastern Illinois. His brother was there. I went down to Eastern Illinois, and I just shook my head and I said, "You've got to be crapping me." I go, "This is what college football is." There were high schools that were bigger, high
right,
schools that had bigger stands. And finally, at the end of the day, I just said, "You know what? These people want you. What are you fighting them for?
yep,
They're the only people that like you. They're the only people that think you can play." So I said, "The hell with it." I called the coach and I said, "Get up here." I said, "I'm coming to Eastern Illinois. Let's sign this thing." It was signing day in February, early February, back when you had a real signing day.
right,
You didn't have all the BS that you've got now with,
right,
"Oh, I've got an early this, I've got an early that."
yeah,
I'm committing when I'm a sophomore, but we really aren't committed to each other. We're just doing it for publicity. So I ended up down at Eastern Illinois, played my first 2 years down there, got injured. So fortunately, I had a redshirt year, recovered from an ACL injury, came back the next 2 years, and we had success down there. We made the playoffs down there. So it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. You met the group of people that you were going to be there with originally. Out of like 30 guys that were recruited my freshman year, who are scholarship players, I think we ended up keeping about 18. You go through that natural attrition rate where guys
sure,
just end up kind of falling off. And that's what happened to us down there. But man, we had some good players. We had guys that made impact as freshmen. And as we moved on, we kept having fun and we kept having success. I made the playoffs twice. So that's kind of nice.
yeah. Well, and I think that speaks volumes for the fact, and I think even more so nowadays, but that you don't necessarily need to go to the biggest and brightest places, right, to make that leap from college to the pros. Now, I think a lot of kids get caught up in that. Oh, I want to play Big Ten, or I want to play SEC. Hey, at the end of the day, especially now with the resources available to teams to locate kids, if you can play, they're going to find you,
Yeah.
and you're going to get a shot, right? And
My younger brother went to Notre Dame. He was 6'3", 275 pounds coming out of college. He was on the preseason all state and all area teams for the Sun Times and the
yep,
Tribune. They were doing big write ups on him, but he had the requisite size
right,
and the height and the size. He
yeah,
had it, and he was athletic. And his basketball team was one of the better teams in the area. And so all that stuff kind of with each other. And he was a hot recruit. He ended up visiting Michigan, Notre Dame, and went to Notre Dame.
yep.
Won a
Well,
national
I mean, hey, and
championship.
kids mature at different times, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, you were young for your,
Yeah. And
17.
he ends up winning a national championship his freshman year. And it's the last championship that Notre Dame has won in 1988 after they beat West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, that was my freshman year at Michigan State. I remember them coming in with Tony Rice leading them at
Oh,
quarterback.
yeah.
Had
Sweet
a,
Tony Rice.
yeah, they beat us at Spartan Stadium my freshman year. But well, then Yurko, I mean, you go on, you have I think what 9-year career.
Yeah, I played
Yeah,
10. My first year was in Miami, but it was one of those practice squad years.
yeah,
And it's
right.
the best thing that's ever been implemented in the NFL. That taxi squad. Now it's 10 players
Wow, yeah.
where guys get a
Back then it
chance.
was 4, I think, right? When we were
What's
playing
yeah, it was
4, 6.
4-6.
Yeah, yeah,
It was because we needed them, and that was the year that the players sued the NFL
Right.
after 1989. My first year was 1990.
Yep.
And they, for the first 4 weeks of the season, did not go with the practice squad. All the coaches were complaining. Everybody was complaining. Our guys are hurt or injured. They can't practice. We don't have enough bodies. Then they came back, they implemented it, and they started paying the guys $3,000 a week. I
So
don't know what they
so
get paid
Shula was
now.
still there in Miami, right?
What's that?
So so Don Shula was there at that time.
Right. I
Yeah.
played for Shula,
Yeah.
all the old guys. Tom Olivendati was our defensive coordinator. Dan Sikonovich was my defensive line coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Old school. You want to talk about old school? Whoa.
I've got a photo from my rookie year. I forget what year it was Shula's last year, but I have a photo from me catching a ball against the Dolphins in a preseason game, and he's kind of standing there with his arms crossed as I'm right in front of him. It's kind of a cool pic. So,
Yeah,
no, the
stoic.
NFL's I think all-time winningest coach still, isn't he? I believe.
Yeah, he's got 324 victories, I believe.
Yeah.
So the,
Yeah.
the question we asked on the air the other day was, will Andy Reid catch him?
Well, I mean, he's got a pretty good team. We'll get into that later, but yeah, he's got a
Yeah,
pretty good team.
yeah.
He's had some pretty successful teams over the years between the Eagles and the Chiefs. So, all right. Well, like I mentioned earlier, we had some we've shared some stories here as we've got to know each other about games that we shared, and one of them was a game that sticks out in my mind for the wrong reasons was when I was with the Steelers and. Well, the first one, I'll go back. I was doing it in Atlanta. We only played once then. We played Green Bay in the 95 playoffs. And
Yep.
as I told you when we talked about that, I had an impressive stat line that day of one catch for -3 yards. Jeff George tried to avoid a sack, dropped it to me, and I got tackled for a 3-yard loss. So that's my career playoff stat, which is really impressive. But so we lose that one. And I remember we were up 7-0. Terrence Mathis got a long touchdown. And man, we thought we were going to. And then, Lambeau took over and Reggie, sacked a few people. And
Yeah. It's
yeah.
a special place, isn't it, Lambeau Field?
Yeah, Lambeau's awesome, man. That was a really cool thing. We had played Green Bay previously, but it was in the old County Stadium. We actually played in the last game of County Stadium,
Yeah.
whatever year that was. So
1994.
yeah. So that's right. Yep.
So we
So that
played
was
each
cool.
other that day too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward, and I forget what year you'll know because you got hurt in this game, but the Steelers were lining up to kick a game-winning field goal. Norm Johnson,
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, yep, and gets blocked and gets returned for a touchdown. Fans might remember that as the one that Bill Cowher kind of stepped out and it looked like he was going to try to tackle the DB as he ran down with the Chris. What was his name again?
Chris Hudson.
Yeah, so he was Cowher almost was ready to tackle him, but we end up losing. It's one of
Yeah.
those bad for entertainment purposes only. It's one of those bad beats in NFL history because whatever the line was, I know if we missed the field goal, if you were betting on the Steelers, you still won. But the fact that it got blocked and not only got blocked but got returned for a touchdown, it flipped the
Oh,
line the other way.
if you bet the Steelers, you lost.
Yeah, that was
That's
bad.
the only way you could lose.
Yep,
They were
yep,
trying a field goal. The Steelers were getting points.
yep.
They were they? Yeah, they were
I
down.
think
I
we were
think I
2-point
remember it.
dogs or something, and we're
You
down
you were
one kicking the
kicking the
field
field
goal.
goal to win the game,
Yeah,
and the fact it got returned for a touchdown took it above the spread.
yeah,
Because my
bad.
buddy Pete the Greek Vasily was on the Steelers. Called me the next day. He goes, "How in the hell did you got?" And I had broken my leg earlier in the game. I had a tibia plateau fracture. Me and Lagerman ran into each other trying to get the quarterback. Cordell threw the touchdown pass anyway, and me and Lagerman smashed into each other. I hyperextended my leg.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
femur crashed into my tibia, cracked my tibia vertically, and I was done for the year. They put
yeah,
me on IR, so it kind of stunk. But Mike Tomzak was a guy that went to TF North High School. He went to high school with me.
yeah.
His
T-Zag's
father
a
was my
great dude.
coach. So anytime Tomzak and I got together, and he was with us in Green Bay in 1991, we
Yeah,
always took a picture on the field together.
yeah. T-Zag was a good teammate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that there's that game, and then we talked about later on. I'm having flashbacks though. Oh yeah, the other one, which is interesting too, came down to a kick as well. Was probably the next year? What year was that you broke your leg?
I broke my leg in 97, and then 99. Yeah, when I was with Cleveland, did you get hurt already?
No, we were playing. We played the yeah. There was that game.
1999.
We played that game, the first game in the new Cleveland Browns stadium, right?
Yeah.
And I should have had the first touchdown in that stadium, which would have been a cool thing to hang my hat on. But I'm wide open in the end zone and on a bootleg, and Cordell runs it in. I mean, I don't blame him. He got the first touchdown, but I'm thinking I'm going to get this, and he just runs it in as I'm standing there watching him going. But
All the guys that had Mitch Lyons' first touchdown of the game were disgruntled in the
yeah, right.
stands. So they took their
Yeah,
ticket, they
that
threw it away in
wasn't
the
on a lot of people's
garbage.
bingo cards. But
Yeah,
but the
Mitch
other one I was
Lyons.
thinking of, the other one that sticks in my mind, and again for not good for me, but good for you Jaguars, was my last game ever in Atlanta, the last game of the year in 1996. Right, your guys' second year of
Mhm.
existence, and you guys need to beat us to make the playoffs. And we're coming into the game 3-12, right? So we're not exactly
Yeah,
world beaters that year. Everybody knows June Jones is going to get fired. Guys are playing out the string, but we come into Jacksonville and we play a really good game and we march the ball down at the end of the field or at the end of the game all the way down to like the one. And Morton Anderson, the Hall of Fame, NFL all-time leading scorer, comes in to kick less than an extra point, and Morton slips, misses the chip shot, and you guys go on to make the playoffs. And not only make the playoffs, then end up proceed to win a couple games and get to the AFC Championship game. And I remember Ty Halleck was on your team, a former teammate of
yeah,
Michigan State of mine. I remember coming across the field, shaking his hand, going, "Congratulations, man! Can I get a little bit of that playoff cash we just handed you?" And you guys, you got some extra change in your wallet for that one.
yeah. And it was amazing. He went to kick it and he grabbed the turf.
Yeah,
His foot grabbed the turf. And then when he hit the turf, it opened his leg up. Like if you were on a golf shot,
yeah, yeah.
but
I've had
instead
that
of like,
happen a time or four with my
yeah.
golf shot.
Oh my heavens. So he went to go kick it. He's left-footed, and so it opened his leg up and it kicked it wide left. And
Crazy.
Lagerman came up and tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "Hey, I'm taller than you. I want to try to block it." I go, "The whole world is taller than me." So why they ever put me on the kick out, the field goal
Yeah,
block team, I never understood. So I ran to the sidelines and I'm watching this and I go, I can't believe we're going to lose this damn game. And lo and behold, he ends up missing. We end up winning. It's a
yeah.
miracle. The guy I played that day, you guys were running Jamal Anderson right up the middle,
Oh yeah.
and on this just a little cutback play, like a little 34 zone. And I was going up against Roman Tobin.
Roman
I believe
Fortin.
that.
Roman
What's
Fortin, our center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Roman Fortin.
Yep.
That's his name. And I don't know if he wrestled in high school, college, but for a guy that, didn't come in with a lot of hoopla and, he wasn't Dermontti Dawson, he
No,
wasn't Randall McDaniel, he wasn't Larry Allen.
he was strong.
But my God, all he did was suffocate you all day. And he was the toughest guy I ever played against. And when I tell people, hey, toughest guy I played against was Roman Fortin. And, I had played against Dermontti and all them guys and Nate
Yeah.
Newton. And I say Roman Fortin. They go, what the are you saying? I go, oh no. Oh no, I know. I feel it. You can feel when you can have success against somebody, and you can feel when you're out there helpless like a child.
Yeah.
And there were times that day I felt like I was helpless like a child going
Well, you
against.
know what, man? There's some dudes that just, it's like basketball or any other sport.
Oh,
Sometimes it's just a bad matchup for you, right? And for
yeah.
whatever reason,
Well,
he was a
and
bad matchup for you.
he didn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
He didn't put himself out of position.
Yeah.
He never beat himself. So if you're going to beat him, you had to do something to beat him. That's why he was tougher than nails.
That's saying a lot too, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
what keeps people in the league a long time.
yeah.
Roman was one of the funniest teammates I ever played with too. That guy, he had some funny stories, but he had played for the Lions prior to that, and then that was his last game in Atlanta, I believe, because I think the next year he went to San Diego and finished out his career. Robbie Tobeck was a guard in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie he was a close friend of mine. He's been on the podcast as well, but he was a first year practice squad guy, right, down in Atlanta my rookie year. And went
Yeah.
on to have like a 14-year career. And he was undersized, same thing. Went to Liberty, went to a JUCO, ended up at
Liberty
Washington State.
Baptist.
But yeah, he had a great career. But he was actually on that field playing you too that day, and then
Yeah.
he flipped and played
We
center for a
played
few more
Liberty
years.
when I was in college. We were one of the few teams that would go down there to Virginia and play them.
Yeah,
We put them on the schedule. They had a tight end come out in 1990, played for the Steelers.
Garrett Green.
Oh, yeah. What a
Yeah,
monster.
big dude, man. Yeah,
Yeah. We got this guy playing at the 1AA level. They came into EIU, and this guy came crashing down on me. And I'm like,
yeah, he was a
who
load,
is
man.
this dude?
That guy, I've got a good sized derriere. That guy had one of the biggest butts in NFL
Yeah.
history, but he could run and move. So,
I
yeah.
walked him on a screen pass.
Oh,
He
nice.
caught a screen on the side, a little tight end screen. I came and I was hauling. Now, he had to divert his route a couple of times to avoid guys. It's the only way I got him.
Yeah,
But I made the decision I was going to run my balls off trying to find a way to get him.
yeah.
And when I got him, I punched the ball up, caused the fumble. We got it. And then the coaches come back on film. This is what we're talking about when we talk hustle. And I'm like, well, thank God I decided to run, thank
Yeah.
God. Because you make
Well,
that decision, that point where you turn and now it's like, is he gone or might I have a shot? I thought he was gone, but I said, to hell with it. I'm going to make it look good.
yeah, yeah.
And I ended up catching it, punching it out.
Give it
We
the old
lost
college
that game
try.
anyway to Liberty. Sam Ratigliano, the former Cleveland
That's
Brown
right.
coach, was
Yeah.
the coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you finish up, you get hurt your last year in Cleveland. I think you tore your hamstring from your pelvis, I think you said,
Yeah.
which is not good. So kind of like me, ended my career in one fell swoop on the turf in Arrowhead. But you move on, and for a lot of guys, that's tough, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've been conditioned that football, we're kind of seasonal creatures every time of the year. I know that next training camp in the same year for you, so 2000 training camp comes along. That's a weird feeling, isn't it? When
Yeah.
your entire life has been predicated on getting ready for the season, and then all of a sudden there's nothing to get ready for. That's a tough thing to come to grips with.
Well, my birthday's August 18th. So every birthday I've had since I was in high school was celebrated on the football field because high school, you're getting ready for your first game,
Yep.
college, you're in training camp. So I never really had any birthday celebration, just guys saying, hey, happy birthday, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot. I certainly do
Right.
appreciate it. All the way through the day I'm done. Now, 1999 came, that happened to me, but I had been doing radio and television since 1992. So whereas in Green Bay for those 4 years, I was doing television and radio. I went to Jacksonville, I was doing television and radio. I went to Cleveland. They knew I was doing television and radio, so they almost had things set up for me when I walked into the joint.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I had a radio gig on the morning on AM, and I had another one on FM another day. And I was doing a TV show with Jim Donovan, who unfortunately passed away this year.
Yeah.
And so, we all set up. I was making a ton of money off the side. So when I got hurt and I was rehabbing, I was rehabbing like I was going to play. Like you got to rehab to the level where you want to get back onto the field so it feels good.
Yeah.
I got to that point, sat down with Dwight Clark and Chris Palmer and Carmen Policy, who was with the Cleveland Browns at the time. They started to talk about, things that you might want to do. And I said, gentlemen, listen, we don't have to go through this. I appreciate you guys bringing me here. I wish I didn't get hurt. I said, I think I can help you develop some of your younger defensive linemen. That's probably not the direction that you guys are thinking about heading. I said, I'm going to get injury protection because I got hurt. Injury protection was introduced. You guys have to release me. I have to file for injury protection. I'll get paid the next year. So it kind of was nice. It gave me that transition year while I was still going to get paid $250,000 at the time. So not bad. Got severance pay from the league, which was, for me, it was 8 seasons, 9 seasons. The first 2 had 5, the rest had 10. So that turns out to be $80,000.
Right.
You take that, you put that in, you get the stuff over the course of the year. So I'm transitioning into radio and television now, And I ended up getting a radio job with EIU. I was doing the Arena Football League with TNN, with Eli Gold and Jill Arrington. And we were traveling around the country doing a bunch of the football games. So I was transitioning into radio and television, trying to get my name out there, get my stuff out there. I was trying to get on with ESPN. But once I got the job at ESPN 1000, I knew I kind of had to dedicate. I did some games in Europe for Fox.
Right.
Just that thing that you're getting the name out there, you're doing it, you're showing people that you want to do it. You've done it in the past. You've got tape. I had hired an agent specifically for the media stuff. So, having done it during that, I knew I wanted to be in radio. I did an interview in 1994 at the Chicago Sun-Times going, hey, I'd love to be able to do sports radio in the city of Chicago. So because I said it, because I put it out there as one of my goals of what I wanted to happen, people knew that's what I wanted. So when I was done, I had people calling me, hey, you still want to do this media thing? Dan McNeil used to work for The Score. I go, yeah, absolutely. He goes, would you partner with me? I go, sure. Of course I'd partner with you. You're established in Chicago. You're a veteran name. People respect you. Yes, absolutely. I'd love to be able to do it. So over the course of, I was playing golf with him during the summers when we were off and stuff like that. So forging those relationships, networking, getting out there, communicating with people to try to set myself up for when I needed a job. Because let me tell you, in the NFL, especially back then, the first salary cap in 1993 was only $36.3 million. We weren't getting paid a ton of money
No.
Even I may have started a handful of years, but I was a run stuffer.
Right.
There's only so much value a run stuffer has. So,
I
it's
feel
one
you
of
as a
those things.
backup blocking tight end.
Yeah, I knew I was going to work forever. And I used to tell my wife, I go, listen, I'm going to get you something nice now because when I go to work, I go, this kind of money's not going to be rolling in. So we're not going to be spending the kind of money we used to spend. So enjoy some of the lavish stuff that we're doing now because when we get to the grind, it ain't going to be like that. So,
Well,
you you've got to be cognizant. You got to be wary of where you're at and what you're doing. So
yeah.
I don't live in a mansion. I live in a nice house perfect for my, she's my ex now, but for a family, it was perfect. Three kids, a husband and a wife. It was an ideal situation. I still have the same house, still live here. She didn't want it. I kept it. So it's perfect.
Yeah, well, you've had a long running show and run in Chicago. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, so Carmen and Jurko, you're on, like I said, 12 to 3 Central Time every day. That signal comes pretty big signal. So a lot of folks are listening to you on a daily basis. Michigan, Indiana, obviously Illinois, Wisconsin. As a kid, growing up as I'm sure you were a Bears fan growing
Yep.
up, being in Chicagoland. I mean, what is that like? I mean, because you're entrenched in that community, and everybody, going back to Dub Bears, everybody knows the kind of the mindset of Chicago, the blue collar ethic, the work ethic, and kind of like Lions fans, a little bit of long suffering, but at least the Bears got a championship back in
Yeah.
'85, and I just watched that documentary '85, which was a great documentary, by the
Yeah.
way. But it's been a bit of a tough stretch since then. But you're
Oh,
you're
yeah. They're bad.
you're the voice, right? You're the voice. What's that meant to you as a Bears fan? To be able to be in that role now for a long time.
Well, so I'm the voice of the post game show. Peggy Kaczynski and I do the post game show.
Yeah.
Right after the game, we go for 2.5
And
hours.
emotions can be raw right after the game. You guys
Oh,
had a
they're
few
very
bad
raw.
beats. You had a
Yeah.
few bad beats this year where I actually watched you, and yeah, I mean that the
The
game in
Redskins.
Washington is not a
Yeah.
that's a bad beat.
Well, and so here's the thing that I didn't like. Just one specific thing. The fragility of a football team. When you lose like that and the inability to bounce back and the inability, the character of men, really,
Yeah,
what are you made of? To let that one play absolutely destroy you. And the finger pointing that was going on,
yeah,
and it's, well, it's the media. Well, the media could say what they want. You guys got to have to be able to handle it in house in that locker room.
exactly. Inside
That's where
those
it
four
needs to be
walls.
handled. The
Yeah.
noise is going to come. You've got to ignore the noise, and they had a grotesque inability to
Well,
run
they had
things down.
that one combined with
Oh,
the
yeah.
clock fiasco with Detroit.
Detroit,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah.
unbelievable. But
So,
aside from that, I mean, what's it meant to you to be to be the voice
wow.
and
So I grew up in Calumet City, Illinois, and Calumet City is home of the Blues Brothers, home of the Smiley Towers. Calumet City is also in Silence of the Lambs, where he said they went to look for the first killer while the young lady was Jodie Foster was in the house of Buffalo Bill. They
okay,
went to Calumet City erroneously because that's where he told them they were looking for Buffalo Bill, and he wasn't there.
all
So
right.
we've got some, little history, good old Calumet
Little
City,
Cliff
Illinois.
Clavin trivia there. I'm gonna note
Yeah.
that.
Also, the FBI was formed because Al Capone used to hang out in Calumet City, and then they just take a tunnel underneath State Line Road and go to Hammond, Indiana. And so if they committed the crime there, they went to Indiana, they couldn't do anything. That's why the FBI was created, so it could go across state lines
Federal
and
crime.
get criminals without worrying about jurisdiction and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So I grew
interesting.
up there. Tough little neighborhood on the southeast side, right next to Hammond, Indiana, under Lake Michigan. And let me tell you, it was 100% Bear fans. You'd sprinkle a Packer fan or two in, but they wouldn't be too proud to show their colors.
Yeah.
You knew they were there because there was a smile on their face whenever the Packers would win. Like when Chester Markle in overtime caught a blocked field goal attempt and scampered around the left end for the touchdown. One of the darkest days in my youth
Is that
when that
the Packer
happened.
kicker?
Yeah, he was a
He
Packer
had
kicker,
like
had
glasses, right?
glasses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I remember
yeah.
that. That was an
Oh, I
incredible play.
remember it. We were
Incredible
MF, me
play.
and my brother were swearing at the television, and my dad kicked us out of the house. He said, "You guys can get that mad over a football
Yeah.
game?" He goes, "Get out, the two of you, get out."
Well, it's funny how that impacts you, like your memory, right? Because I remember as a
Yeah.
kid, the first game I ever went to see the Lions, it was 1979. in the Pontiac Silverdome, and they were playing the Bears, or excuse me, they were playing the Packers. But it sticks out in my mind, like Lynn Dickey was the quarterback, and they had some
Yeah.
good receivers, Jefferson, and yeah, but and the Lions are in the middle of a 2 and
James
14.
Lofton, John Jefferson,
Yeah,
Paul
yeah,
Kaufman.
they were in the middle of the Lions are in the middle of a 2 and 14 season, but I remember that. But those names from the past, I love those old stories because
Yeah.
those bad beats. I remember. Well, you'll remember this one too. I'm sure this would have been probably late '70s Thanksgiving Day game. Detroit, the Bears, they go to overtime. Detroit kicks off. The Bears return it for a touchdown and ends the game.
David Williams, number
Exactly.
22.
That's a
Yeah.
bad beat. So those things stick. But
You guys had the great Monty Clark on the
oh yeah.
sidelines.
That's
Yeah, he
that's
was
part of
down
the
with
that's
Miami
part of
my
the
first year.
fabric of being a
Yeah.
fan, right? Those, and I always say this, it's true, and it's true in life and business, but you remember the losses hurt worse than the wins feel
Hmm.
good. That's what I found. And even as a player,
Right.
fan, I think of all the times growing up, with the Pistons, I always relate, like kind of like the Lions. We'll get in a little bit at the Lions here, but how they've kind of, they progressed this year, almost a step back, really, with what you expected in the playoffs. But it's building, right? And the Pistons, the bad boy era, they got one step further every year, and it was so painful because as a fan, couldn't get over the Celtics, and then you finally got over the Celtics, and then you couldn't get over the Lakers, and then you finally got over, and made it all worth it in the end. But there's no
Yeah.
guarantees you ever get there, and that's what Lions fans are experiencing now. We thought this was the year that they're going to get it done, but it's painful as a fan sometimes.
Well, that's what I tell people. I go, listen, the goal is to make the playoffs.
Anything
That's
can
really
happen.
all you can do.
Yeah,
Now, once you get to the playoffs, you've got to be precise. You've got to be certain. It's got to be perfect.
yeah,
Because now, if you slip up, it's over. You go 15-2 all you want during the regular season. You can set yourself up for something
yeah.
special, but it's not going to matter.
Well, it's not a 7 game series.
Right.
You,
Which is why you kind of want to be refining the thing the whole way.
yeah,
It's almost like, okay, you reached your apex of your play. And because of injuries, let's be honest with each other. Aiden
yeah.
Hutchinson goes down with that
That's a
horrific
killer, man.
injury. Yeah, you lost that long-haired freaky guy, 34, Azalea,
Maloney.
or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
the list goes on
Lineman.
and on.
Yeah, over
And
on and on and on.
yeah,
Your list goes on. You can take one injury, you can take two injury. You can't take too many more than that. Once you get too many injuries, now you got yourself a dilemma and you've got yourself a problem. What wasn't a weakness, at times may become a weakness.
yeah.
And then if
And
you've
I
got to
think
play,
and I think in spite of all that, that's what was painful for Lions fans was in spite of all that. I mean, if you just don't turn the ball over 5 times, if you only turn it
Mhm.
off two or three times, you're probably in that game, especially that first one that where you could have gone up 14-3, and next thing you know, it's 10-7 instead. They come back and score. So hey,
Yeah.
that's football. And again, it's not a 7 game series. If you're not on, you're that one day,
All
they can
right.
all end in a hurry. And would they beat
Do you
us
know
four
how
out
many
of seven? Probably
turnovers?
not.
Do you know how many turnovers Philadelphia has had in this playoffs?
Not a lot, if any, probably.
Zero.
Yeah, that
They
helps.
haven't turned the ball over. Do you know how many times Kansas City turned the ball over?
I'm gonna guess zero.
One.
One. All right.
It
Yeah.
it was that self-inflicted handoff. Nobody touched anybody.
Yeah.
They went to do the handoff and they fumbled the handoff and the other team recovered the
Yeah.
ball.
Well,
That's the
that's
only
such a big
time they
part,
turned the
right? I
ball
mean, I
over.
remember Frank Gans, the old special teams guru with us in Atlanta. He always preached that, right? If
Yeah.
you're -2 in the turnover game, you got a 90% chance you're going to lose,
Yeah.
right? And it just comes down to that. You might not, you might be the better team on paper, but you can't take care of the ball, and that's a big part of it. So,
We're
well,
we were having a practice one time. Mike Homer pulled everybody together, and Antonio Freeman was there in his rookie year, as 95. Sterling had just left us. Robert Brooks was there. So we had some receivers that were there. Mark Ingram came and joined us from Miami. Keith Jackson was our tight end with
yeah,
Chimura.
yeah,
He pulled everybody in and he said, listen, guys, two things you need to be able to do to play in this league. You got to be able to catch the ball. He goes, that's the first thing. When you catch the ball, you got to be able to hold on to the ball. He goes, if you can't do either one of the two, he goes, you can't play in the football league. It's easy.
yeah,
He goes, we come out here today, we can't catch the ball, we can't hold on to the football once we catch it. He goes, it don't work that way. He goes, I'm going to have to go out and find everybody new if this is what we're going to be doing. And he told them, you can't play in the league. I'm sorry, because if you can't catch it and you can't hold on to it, you're no good to me.
yeah. I
And
mean, you can have all the potential in the world,
yeah,
man, but if you can't execute the basics,
it was just a brutal matter of fact sitting down of get your heads out of your asses, guys. Don't let it stink up there because you're killing my practice right now. They got the message. And
yeah,
Freeman, The kid kept dropping balls. It was unbelievable. But once he got the confidence, they must have saw something in him. Once he got the confidence, the kid was unbelievable and
He
had
was okay.
himself an
Yeah.
8-year stretch that was
But
unbelievable.
that's such a big part of it too, like
Yeah.
in the NFL, right? I mean, number one, hey, there's some superstars, obviously, right? But the rank and file guys, the ones that last a long
Yeah.
time, frankly, yourself and me, I mean, we weren't combine kids by any means, but the thing,
Nope.
I knew my plays. When the ball was thrown to me, I generally caught it. You just didn't make the mental mistakes, and
Yeah.
you showed up and you were available, right? I always say your best ability is your availability,
Yeah.
because if you're not healthy, you're not taking care of yourself, and we each had our share of injuries, but. Bill Cowher always told he always would say there's a difference between being injured and being hurt. Okay, injured, you're on IR and you can't
Yeah.
physically do it. Being hurt, you got to overcome those little things, right? You got to bring your lunch bucket and yeah, you got a little owie, you got to play over that and not let it impact your play. And the guys that can do that can play a long time because they can trust you, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And a
Well,
lot of guys you just can't
you
trust.
talk about that. And my coach up in Cleveland was Clarence Brooks. 10 games into the season, he goes over a report and he tells everybody what they had. We had Herbie McCormick, Derek Alexander, Darius Holland was with us, Mike Thompson, Chris Malunga
You
out
need
of
this, man.
Kansas, one of those names. And he puts the report out there and he puts it up everywhere. The guy's got 27 mental errors. 10
Oof.
games in now, right? 2.7 a game, 26, 21, 20. Jurkovic won. And then the guy in the back goes, how is it that we all have 27 mental errors and Jurkovic only has one? Clarence Brooks goes and he sits down and he tells him, he goes, there's a reason this guy's played in the league for 10 years. There's a reason that when he comes in here and he goes, he knew Greg Bosch, who was my line coach. He knew John Peace, who was my line coach.
Yeah.
He goes, there's a reason that when I call their coaches and they tell me that this is a guy that's going to be absolutely perfect for you in the classroom, he's going to understand everything. He's not going to make mistakes. You'll be able to trust him out on the field. He goes, this is why if he can, he will play forever until he wants to stop.
Yep.
Because this is why, because he doesn't make
Or
mistakes.
until the injury bug gets you and you just
Right.
can't do it anymore,
I
right?
mean, but you don't eliminate yourself when you
Right.
don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
The guys that make mistakes eliminate themselves, and that's what they don't get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, let's quick before we appreciate your time, but let's hit on. I know the Bears fans are pretty excited now with the new coaching hire. To the angst of Lions fans that Ben Johnson has jumped ship from the Lions, taking the job in Chicago. What are your thoughts on that? And where are the heads of Bears fans now as they get this bright young mind? As far as play calling, he was fantastic in Detroit. Where are you at on that hire?
So Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson were choices 1 and 1A. Vrabel, you never had a shot at because he was going to go to the New England Patriots. So Ben Johnson was the guy that you were concentrating on. We didn't think we'd have a chance to get him until maybe after the NFC Championship game because I certainly thought the Detroit Lions were going there.
Right.
The fact that he called the Bears after that loss and said, "Hey," called his agents to get me in there. I want to go to Chicago. Oh, which hopefully means that he believes in Caleb Johnson
Right.
or Caleb Williams,
Right.
and he believes Caleb Williams is going to be his guy, that he's going to be able to get to where he needs to be. The receiver room is good, so we're happy. Antoine Randall L's a Thornton kid. He's from Riverdale, but he went to Thornton High School along with Napoleon Harris, Ty Streets. They produce nothing but athletes out there. And it's fantastic to have Ty Streets back. He's got a young kid that's going to be doing a lot of his leg work that he's brought in as his coordinator, and he's got these coaches that he's putting together. A young offensive mind that you're not going to lose. That's what they were looking for. They finally made a financial commitment to him. Ownership finally made a commitment to going after a guy and treating a guy well. So I think Bears fans are excited. There's a little bit of trepidation with Ryan Poles and what they're going to be able to do offensively. Hopefully somebody's there to help him identify offensive linemen because he's not tremendous at that. But I think everybody's excited.
Yeah.
At least Ben Johnson knows what a great offensive line looks like.
Right. Exactly.
Now, Spielman's with you guys, and I was teammates with Spielman in '99 in Cleveland. Chris was there before he got hurt in training camp, and I ended up retiring right at that point. But I know Spielman likes tough football. I know how he likes to play. He's out of Massillon, went to Ohio State.
Sure.
We all know what his mantra and his mentality is. We hope that the Bears figure out what that mantra and mentality needs to be because Ben Johnson has been exposed to all that. So that's what you're hoping for.
Yep.
And you got Dennis Allen, who he brought in. Some guys are better coordinators than they are coaches. Dick LeBeau, great coordinator. Head coach, not so much, but a
Yep.
great coordinator. So I think Bears fans are excited. Their schedule next year, I don't know if you've seen it already, Mitch. Their schedule next year is an absolute bear. This year, a little bit of a cream puff schedule early
Yep.
on, and they could have beat Washington, didn't beat Washington. That one game propelled them because they felt so great, propelled them for the rest of their year. I look for a little buyback on Washington next year. But the Bears schedule, it's tough.
Well, it's going to be tough. I
It's
mean, hey,
tough.
it's tough for any team in the NFC North because the NFC North looks pretty darn good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got now the Vikings are going to have probably, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Darnold.
Yeah.
I don't know that they sign him to a long-term deal. Who knows? But either way, they've got a talented team. Clearly, the Packers are solid. You got Lions. I don't think are going anywhere anytime soon with the talent they've got, and they're basically getting an entire defense back from IR. So that's like getting a bunch of new free agents. So I
But
don't
Mitch,
expect they're going to take a real step back, even with the loss of the coordinator. So it's going to be tough to win games.
yeah, but I'm going to call for a statistical buyback in the NFC North. And I'm going to tell you why. What were the four teams' records? So it's 32 games. The four NFC North records against the AFC South, that was the Indianapolis Jacksonville group,
Yeah,
and the NFC West. Do you remember what the records were total?
I don't.
The NFC North was 26-6 in those 32 games.
Wow.
8-0 by the Detroit Lions, 8-0 by the Green Bay Packers, 7-1 out of Minnesota, and the Bears were 3-5. So 5 of the losses came from the Bears. 8-0, 8-0, 7-1.
Yeah.
There has to be a buyback coming, a correction. And it will. It'll come back in the NFC North. I predict 12 victories next year wins the NFC North.
And the thing is I don't even care as a kid that grew up as a Lions fan and watching
Yeah.
them have the year. I said, hey, if there's one thing that I learned as a Lions fan this year is the fact that next year I could care less about whether they get the number one seed, right? Because
Right.
at the end of the day, the Lions were undefeated on the road. All their 3 losses were at home. So does it
Yeah.
really matter? I mean, it does on that snap count stuff when you're an offensive lineman. But at the end of the day, man, you got to play well when it matters, and it doesn't
Right.
matter if you're in the home or road. I mean, the
You want
Steelers
to be,
and two Steelers
yeah.
in '05, I think it was. They won it going on the road all 3 games to get to the
Yep.
Super Bowl. It can be done, right? And whether
Right.
you're playing that first weekend or not. I mean, yeah, for me, I felt like the Lions needed that week off because they were so beat up. Uh, but at the end of the day, who knows, man? It's a,
Yeah.
it's a crapshoot, like you said. You just got to get in the playoffs, right?
Right. You
And be
want to be
peaking
playing
at
your
the right
best
time.
football. You want to be playing your best football. You want to be on a
Exactly.
little bit of a roll going in,
Yep.
feeling good about
And you got
yourself.
to hang on to the ball, right? So
Right.
I'm looking
And
for I'm looking
not to
forward
throw it.
to this next year because I think all 4 teams will have a shot. And like you said, I mean, hey,
Mhm.
there's going to be probably tougher schedules for everybody,
Yeah.
but it'll
Well, that's
be
for
it'll be
sure.
fun.
They
I'm looking
play.
forward to as part of my deal with Carmen and Jurko coming over to do a couple games at the Bears Stadium. Hopefully the Lions Bears game that'd be cool. But
Yeah.
we love Chicago, Ange and I love visiting there, and I mean, like I said, it's been a great market for Mitch Lyons Wealth there. But uh,
Beautiful.
before we let you go, Jurko, you got the Chiefs, you got the Eagles. Who do you like this week in the Super Bowl?
All right. Well, I think both defenses are tough. They're in the top 5 in scoring defenses. Offensively, I think the Philadelphia Eagles have been a little bit better than Kansas City. But Kansas City, they're like a boa constrictor. They get a hold of you and they just
Yeah.
squeeze and they squeeze and they squeeze until they find a way to get in front of you and they stay in front of you and they close out football games. Their quarterback is better than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
I think,
that's what it comes down to for me.
yeah. And I think Jalen Hurts is a little bit banged up and not 100%.
Yeah.
I think that would have a little bit of an effect on him not being able to play as clean as he might want to play. Clearly, Saquon Barkley is dangerous, but who am I going to trust? Spagnuolo to come up with a game plan. They stopped Derrick Henry when Derrick Henry was at the Titans and they had to play Derrick Henry in the playoffs. They always found a way to stop him and say, your quarterback's going to have to beat us today. I think it's going to be similar with Kansas City telling them it's not going to happen. Derrick Henry's not going to go off. We'll find a way to stop, and not Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. We're going to stop Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts is going to have to beat us with his arm, and we wish you the best of luck there. I've got Kansas City winning the game 21-17,
Yeah. I just think,
24-21.
yeah, I think it'll be a close game. But again, Patrick Mahomes, nobody Patrick Mahomes like Patrick Mahomes, right? And he
Yeah,
just, like him or love him. I mean, the guy's just a winner. He's been since he stepped foot into the starter spot at the Chiefs. And I had an unbelievable run, and to your point, Andy Reid maybe having a shot, at the all-time wins record. Well, he's built a pretty good program there, coming off a pretty good run in Philly, his time there,
yeah.
and
He's 66.
it's been impressive what he's
Right.
done out there, and it helps again to have a Patrick Mahomes. But
Yeah.
it wasn't like I mean, it wasn't like they didn't have their share of injuries this year either, right?
Yeah.
Especially early on. Pacheco was out. They had to do some finagling there with their lineup, and it seems like Patrick Mahomes been. There's not like one clear. Obviously, Kelsey's Kelsey, but there's not like a one stud receiver necessarily, right? He's spreading that ball around, and he just does what he does. So it'll be an entertaining game, but I like the Chiefs as well.
Yeah. And so he's had 273 victories, regular season victories.
Yeah.
I've got him coaching 7 more years until he's 73. I'll give him to 73. If he gets 10 victories a year with Patrick Mahomes, that
Yeah.
means 10-7.
Yeah.
These aren't outrageous numbers that
No,
I'm
not at
giving you,
all.
right? He had 70. He'll be at 340. He'll break it by 20.
Yeah.
If he decides, okay, I don't want to play for 2 years and say they've got a couple 12-win seasons in there in 5 years, which is realistic, he could possibly go ahead and break that record
Yeah.
and be considered the greatest coach of all time. And this is my tight ends coach. He was our tight ends coach in Green Bay when I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a staff: John Gruden, Steve Mariucci, Andy Reid, Ray Rhodes,
Right.
Dick Duran, Greg
Yeah.
Bosch. I mean, it was a
A lot of head coaches in
it
that.
was a collection of good people. So we certainly
Well,
did it.
if Andy takes care of himself, he's got to stop eating Patrick's nuggies, though.
Yeah. Oh, he's a big fan. He likes to go to Q39 for the cheeseburger. He doesn't eat the brisket. He doesn't eat the this or the that. But on Fridays, he likes to go out and get his cheeseburger.
Well, Jurko, I really appreciate your time, buddy. We look forward to the partnership we have with you in Chicago, and enjoy your Super Sunday. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. But if you like this episode, we got a lot of great episodes. Like, subscribe to the podcast, and we have a lot of great guests coming up in addition to Jurko today. But again, thanks again, buddy, and we appreciate everything you've done for Mitch Lyons Wealth. And if for those listeners, go ahead and check out our website, mitchlyonswealth.com. Get a book, get a movie free of charge. Use our tax tool on there. A lot of neat things on there. So have a great day, and we'll see who wins in the Super Bowl, Jurko.
All right, go Chiefs. All right, Mitch. Thank you.
You bet. Let me